Now it is my extreme pleasure to welcome Chad Smith, who many of you will know from his long and distinguished work and really groundbreaking work at the Los Angeles Philharmonic. But Chad also has the unique responsibility, the unique privilege, and also the unique challenge of coming in and taking over for a class act like Tom Morris. So again, welcome, Chad. Thank you for sitting in the hot seat. I hope it's not too literally blazing right now. So I want to start just by asking you your impressions of Ojai, because you've been coming here for, I believe, something like 18 years.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, anyone who has been here knows how special this place is. And it doesn't take long for you, once you arrive here and once you sit in the bowl to hear a concert, to realize that there really is no place like Ojai. And I had that experience. In fact, my first musical experience in California was in 2001. I was working for Michael Tilson Thomas at the New World Symphony, and I was up in San Francisco working on the Mavericks Festival with him. And there was a Vanity Fair photo shoot. It was talking about kind of how classical music was moving west. And they were doing a photo shoot about Michael and Esa-Pekka, and it was here. And so I flew down with Michael, and I was observing the photo shoot, but I was also observing the festival, and I fell in love with this place. And I remember there was a night, it was a Saturday night, there was an evening when Esa-Pekka conducted the Messiaen from the Canyons to the Stars. And sitting in the old bowl, I was sitting behind a tree, and it didn't matter because it was one of those magical evenings here. And I met a lot of people. I met a lot of people who were music makers and administrators from California. It was a real gathering spot. And it was in that kind of 2 days that I was in Ojai that my life in music in Los Angeles was really born. About 6 months later, I was offered a job to come out to LA, and I've basically been here ever since. So, over the years, to drive up to Ojai, which also is a really special experience.
The driving?
The drive up.
Do you take Pacific Coast Highway?
I sometimes take the Pacific Coast Highway, but recently I take the 5 to the 126 to the 150.
Okay.
It sounds like an episode of Saturday Night Live.
Right.
But, and I love it. I love coming through the valley, and I love going up into the mountains and kind of coming down into the Ojai Valley, the back way, as we say, because it really is this kind of oasis. And the festival has always been this oasis of contemporary thinking, of music making at the highest caliber, in this incredibly relaxed environment where people kind of relax into the experience that the music directors provide each year. So I've loved it. Some of my favorite musical experiences over the past 18 years have been up here. Peter Sellers' year, the David Robertson year. There are so many, the Leif Ove Ansnes year. So many kind of wonderful nights. I've been sitting in these seats back here. So yeah, Ojai continues to be a very special place for me.
And also, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I have to assume that you have observed the quality of listening here is extraordinary. I mean, there is a casual mode out on the lawn or even out beyond the barriers, but people are listening everywhere, and certainly in the bowl. I had the experience this morning of attending the 8 a.m. concert, and just watching a whole room full of people focusing on really challenging music at 8 o'clock in the morning and coming away with smiles is something that I think is intrinsic to Ojai.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot in the classical music industry, are we creating experiences where our audiences are passive listeners or are they active listeners? And what we all want is we want that active listening. We want that sense of kind of hearing what's happening on stage, but also having it be your interpretation of what's happening being informed by your experience, by the conversations that you have with the people that are gathered with you. It's a communal experience. Live music is so important because we experience it together. And something that's so special about Ojai is that the audiences, they talk about what they talk, they argue about it, they have very passionate opinions. This is something I love. I walk up the aisle after a performance and people kind of are hungry to talk about what just happened.
Yes, absolutely.
And sometimes they love it, sometimes it is incredibly infuriating, and always there's a passion about what we do.
That's right.
And I think, for me, that's been one of the great hallmarks of Tom's tenure. and something that has he has taken this festival and he has made it an important place for people to talk about what's happening in our world.
Well, that's a beautiful segue, because I was just about to talk about, I'm going to mangle a metaphor like a good Texan transplanted to New York. You're stepping into some 10-gallon shoes here.
It's true. It's true. But yes, but I also kind of know that I'm stepping into those shoes, right? Because Tom has been kind of a hero of mine for a long time. I come up through the orchestral business, right?
Right.
And when I was I studied music in Boston, studied history in Boston. And I remember hearing about Tom's work with the Boston Symphony from when I was in college.
Right.
And the things that he did in the 60s and 70s with the Boston Symphony, and then when he went to the Cleveland Orchestra and really kind of put this incredibly progressive, but also optimistic stake in the ground about the future of classical music with this orchestra, with this storied orchestra. So I've admired his work forever, and the idea that I can come and kind of pick up that work and carry it forward to me is really exciting.
Right, exactly.
Tom and I talk a lot. I was with him in the fall. I went out to Cleveland just to pick his brain. You've been living this world. You've been living this festival for 16 years. I wanted to know kind of what the pitfalls were, what the opportunities were, and he's been so generous with me and with ideas about the continuity of the festival. You see that generosity as an audience member in the way that the musicians who are chosen as music director respond to Tom.
Right.
And the way that they are so generous with their time and their ideas in building out these festivals. I think about what Barbara's doing. You can't expect an artist to do this much unless they trust the space and they trust the partnership with the festival and the people leading the festival. And that partnership and that trust that Barbara has for Tom is why we're able to kind of hear all of these magnificent performances, one after the other over the course of 4 days.
And they all speak to each other in certain ways. It's not like it's thematic programming, which is anathema to Tom, he has said many times, but yet there are strands of continuity and familial connections.
Sure, I think that goes to the heart of what makes Ojai special, is that people come here and they experience it intensely over a short period of time. There's something like 24 hours of music or 22 hours of music that are played between Thursday night and Sunday afternoon. You can't help but bring your own experience. We're all lovers of music. We're all lovers of this place. You can't help but bring your experience to that immense body of work and start finding your connections.
Right.
And I love that. That's again, that's such a different way of experiencing our art form from what we usually do.
That's
from what I usually do, right? I go to a Thursday night subscription concert. I hear a lot of music, obviously. Then I'm traveling and I might hear the next. But here, we're coming to the same spot. We're seeing the same artists, and we're seeing these incredibly varied programs, and we're finding our own narrative.
That's right. That's right. Now, I know that looking into the crystal ball, there's a lot that you cannot divulge yet, but one thing we can talk at great length and enthusiasm about is 2020 and Matthias Pintscher.
Yeah. So, look, this is one of the great advantages to the seamless continuity of this festival, right? Matthias was in place when I was named, and that is such a thrill for me and a benefit to me. I love Matthias's work. He is kind of a triple or quadruple threat. He's a wonderful conductor.
Yes.
He is a great composer. He's a terrific educator, and he's an incredible curator.
Okay.
So he has all of these qualities that you want to exploit in a festival like the Ojai Festival. So part of what we're putting together is looking at the various threads of Matthias's musical life. And looking at his Jewish identity, looking at the relationships that he had with his teachers, some of these European modernist composers, his relationship to New York. He's a European composer who now lives in New York, and that bridge, that kind of dichotomy of music making in this country and music making in Europe.
Well, invisible bridge is the term that you've used.
Exactly. So that's a part of what we're looking at, and then there's also this relationship to his musicians. We're bringing next year the Ensemble Intercontemporain. And it's the first time that the ensemble will perform at the Ojai Festival.
Okay.
But what's for me remarkable about it is that it's these threads of continuity The Ensemble Intercontemporain was founded by Pierre Boulez,
Right.
I think in 1972. And today, Matthias is the music director of the Ensemble Intercontemporain. Boulez, of course, was one of the great founding musicians of this festival. He was the music director, I think, 7 or 8 times.
Right, exactly, exactly. A
the
well-known personality to Ojai longtimers.
Correct. So you know, the music and the spirit of Boulez lives in this place.
That's right.
And we're gonna have some of that with us through the eyes and ears and conducting of Matthias. But you know, those musicians, the ensemble, they're some of the finest musicians. It's one of the finest new music ensembles in the world. One of the finest ensembles in the world.
Yes, absolutely.
And so over the course of these 5 or 6 days, we're going to be able to contextualize what they do with musicians that we're going to be bringing in from other places. It's Matthias has spoken about there are certain key pieces of repertoire that he wants to do, and there's some Boulez and certain of his music, but also there's a project he wants to do called the Genesis Project, and it's a commission of 8 composers looking at individual days in the Genesis story. And that is going to be a big project that we bring.
Okay.
He has a really kind of a deep connection to the music of Mozart. And so there's the Grand Partita is a piece that he wants to feature in the festival. And obviously there's going to be Boulez. Obviously there's going to be some music of Olga Neuwirth. But for me, when the festival works best, it's when these contemporary works are connected back to some of the seminal musical moments of our great tradition.
Sure.
So how do we innovate from the front, but have a real respect for what's come before us? And Matthias, I think, is a really great embodiment of that set of values.
Absolutely, truly is. And I mean, you've just managed to surprise me just sitting here, because, you know, as long as I've known Matthias's music and Matthias's great career, I didn't know about this connection to Mozart. So there again, these are the kinds of things that you come here to discover, to learn, and to take home with you, and it deepens and broadens your knowledge of Matthias's music and of music in general.
So true.
Now, we're about 2 minutes away from heading down to the stage
Okay.
for Facade, but I do want to ask you, is there... Okay, look, I'm not going to pull any names out of you, but I wonder if there are themes or directions that you're particularly eager to explore. Is that even too specific?
Well, I will say, no, it's not too specific, and unfortunately we only have 2 minutes.
That's right.
I could spend the next 2 days talking about that. There are certain things that are very important to me. I believe that the composer is the center of our art form.
Right.
And so for me, the idea of supporting those musicians who are carrying our art form forward is something that is of tremendous value across all of the different points in their career. So I want young composers to be here, experiencing these great musicians, mentoring with some of the more senior composers that are going to be in place. I also think that we are so lucky. Tom has made the Ojai Festival such an internationally important festival.
Yes.
And at the same time, it is in a place, it is in Ojai, it is in Southern California, at a time when the music making and the Southern California, I think, has become arguably one of the 2 or 3 most important centers of creativity in music and culture anywhere in the world.
Absolutely so.
So part of what I also want to do is celebrate this community too. I want Ojai to be even more a playground for the wonderful musicians and composers who are living among us. So it's going to be this balance. How do we bring the world to Ojai and allow Ojai to also be a playground for our own community?
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I'm really looking forward to next year and to seeing everything that lays beyond.
I can't wait.